When he first started out, it seemed like he was really going after the criminals, like the ones, committing murder and rape, and he was getting all of them, and who we don't want them here if they're illegally, especially. But now it's got to the extreme. It's way too extreme, and he's violating civil rights, and he's causing more chaos than anything.
As of June 10th, 7 out of 12 North Carolina swing voters support President Trump's activation of National Guardsmen and Marines in Los Angeles. 3 disapprove, and 2 don't have an opinion either way. Let's start with those who approve, even if they have some reservations.
It's got out of control and it's got violent. And this it doesn't seem. I don't think it's going to get under control with what they have there now.
Because the stance California has on illegal immigration only enables all these people, and they're not going to stop it. They haven't really tried over the last, what, I think it's 5 days now, as they just said. So we need to bring it up another level. It needs to stop. California doesn't want to stop it.
It's in the best interest of the nation that we call this call, I don't know, uprising, call it what you want, but yeah, that needs to get nipped in the bud. Just like George Floyd and all that shit should have.
I've seen videos of there's this woman that had a baby in the car who was being pelted by stones, and she was unable to like remove her child. And I've seen other people's like private property being damaged. People were trying to navigate through the traffic, and the protesters were throwing stones at people's personal vehicles and police officers. And I think it's just crossed a line where civilians are in danger.
The people that are protesting are basically assaulting the ICE agents. Local police were not responding quickly enough, and President Trump got tired of it.
Because of the violence in California, I think Trump has the right to act and stop the violence.
The president has the right to stop the violence.
Yes.
Those who oppose the president's actions in Los Angeles say this.
I disapprove on that because there needs to be even he has to have a level of agreement in coming together with the governor of that state.
Because historically, California does not respond to social issues that way. It's a state that's built primarily on immigrants. So they're not going to respond positively to any sort of additional law enforcement, presence. It's just not going to work out. It needs to be held. It actually needs to be handled quite a bit differently.
We encountered some queasiness about arrests at Home Depot or in courtrooms by ICE. That said, though, when it comes to immigration policy more broadly, 9 of the 12 think the Trump administration should arrest and deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed a crime since arriving in the U.S., even if they are working and supporting a family. Why so?
I would object to the way your question was phrased, because if they're here undocumented, they are committing a crime.
You're also draining resources for United States citizens. Any kind of medical care that you receive, you don't have health insurance, who's going to pay for it? And there's other lists of things I can go on about.
These millions of people, estimated 10 to 20 million people, whatever, we're in competition for resources. They need everything that you and I need. They need groceries, they need fuel, they need housing, they need medical care. You and I, as American citizens, should not be in competition for resources with 20 million people that have no business here. I don't care if they're working a 9 to 5 or robbing and killing. They shouldn't be here.
I can't think of any other country in the world that you could get away with doing this. And I've always been baffled that people come to this country and then demand rights and demand things that in some cases citizens are not treated that way.
They may agree with the president's goals, but they're out of step with him on the language he uses, and they often see through that language that he uses. We showed this post by President Trump to respondents, and then I asked, so by a show of fingers, Who thinks the president's description of the situation in Los Angeles as, quote, violent insurrectionist mobs, unquote, that, quote, have invaded and occupied, unquote, that city is an accurate one? Who thinks the president's description is an accurate one? None of you do. Okay, so what's inaccurate about it?
Well, just because of his nature, he exaggerates everything. There are some elements of everything that he said, but everything he says is such an exaggeration that it becomes ridiculous almost, but it's just an over exaggeration.
It's not being occupied. It's like he wants, when you read that, it makes you think the city was taken over. It hasn't been taken over by anybody. There are violent mobs that are doing destruction, a lot of vandalism. You've seen the burning cop cars, and that's unacceptable. But the city hasn't been like overrun by anybody. So it's embellished.
I mean, I see that as optics, as messaging, as branding. I don't necessarily agree with the extreme tone of it. I mean, when you say, invasion and it sounds like a horde of Mongols riding in. I mean, that's not quite what's happening.
These respondents are unsparing in their perspective on Democrats and the issue of immigration. 8 of the 12 think Democrats prioritize illegal immigrants over American citizens. When I asked in what ways Democrats do this, they offered the following as evidence.
They have always wanted, like illegals to come here and I would say like make it like a diverse country, which it already is like a diverse country. It's many different cultures, religions here, and that's perfectly cool with me. But do it the right way. Get the right paperwork, the right documentation, and just do it the right way. And I think they always try to make it seem like, hey, like you don't want this Mexican person here or this Chinese person here, then you're the bad guy. And as a U.S. citizen, I'm not the bad guy. I just want things to be done the right way.
So you can look at, the natural disaster that we had here in North Carolina, and the money wasn't there because they started dipping into FEMA. And so, you look at what the immigrants have been offered, and then I think they offer like $700 per family, and then you have to jump through hoops to get that. So they they directly took money away from FEMA, if I understood correctly, to support the immigration issue here.
We're seeing the results of that now, where people like Gavin Newsom and Shirley Bass are defending the people who are rioting and saying that we shouldn't be stepping in to stop the violence and it's bad. Everything that was done under Biden with letting all of these people in, with losing all these children, it's pretty obvious from their actions.
In a hypothetical question I posed, half of our respondents think President Trump would be justified in arresting California Governor Gavin Newsom if Newsom used his power to block deportation efforts by ICE.
I believe as a political official, disrespecting the hierarchy and the chain of command is completely, it goes against everything that holding office stands for. I think that you do have to respect chain of command. He can express his opinions for sure, but disobeying a direct order is what devolves into chaos.
Let's finish up by talking about the topic of corruption. 5 respondents think Joe Biden is corrupt, while 6 say that Donald Trump is. Note that their definitions of corruption are broad and sometimes include policies or personal characteristics that they don't like. Democrats and the mainstream media have been highlighting cases of alleged corruption by President Trump. We wanted to know whether respondents actually found examples of alleged corruption troubling. To do this, we shared 7 examples from a June 7th editorial in the New York Times. What respondents found most troubling were the president's real estate projects in the Middle East and his acceptance of a $200 million plane from Qatar. Next most troubling was the president's recent granting of a pardon to someone who last year pled guilty to tax crimes, someone whose mother attended a $1 million per person fundraising dinner for the president's super PAC in April. What's noteworthy is that some examples in the Times piece were barely viewed as corrupt at all, such as Amazon's paying Melania Trump $40 million for the rights to a documentary about her life. Thanks for joining us again this month. Please forward this link to a friend, and please join us again next month.